Hey everyone, my name is Katie. Welcome back to my channel about all things React Native and front-end mobile development. Today I have a really exciting video. We are going to go through the entire build process of a mobile application I recently built along with two other teammates. So I'm going to be explaining our entire team process, our collaboration, and all the technical details that actually are inside the app and how we actually built the app. So yeah, and right before this video, I made a demo video of the app. So if you want to actually see how the app functions and how the app works, that'll be the video right before this one. But I made an entire separate video just to go over exactly how we built the app. So let's go ahead and get started. So this app was called Track My Chores. The logo is this way. The logo's right there, uh, made by our amazing UX UI designer. So just a really quick summary of what this app is. It's a task management app for parents and children specifically to manage chores. There is an entire parent user face where the parents can assign chores, see what's due for the rest of the month, see what's overdue, interact with their kids, approve chores, reject chores. And there's an entire kid interface as well where you see what's due, you complete chores, you submit photos, you can submit comments. So it's a really cool interactive task management app basically, but it's very unique in the way that it's specifically for parents and kids with the two separate interfaces. So, all right, let's get started. Like I said, this project was made with a team. This was a team effort. So I was the main front-end software engineer. Here I am, Katie Chickering, and then we had a back-end software engineer, Ariella Rollins, and a UX UI designer, Helena Contreras. And I will say that we kind of all dabbled like in each other's fields. It wasn't super strict. I only did front end. I did work in the back end a little bit every now and then. Same with Ariella, working in the front end a little bit every now and then, just so everything was working super cohesively, and we were all well aware of what was going on. But these were our main roles within the app. All right, so I wanted to start off this presentation with really highlighting how we connected with our client and what that looked like. So we took this project very seriously as if we were actually meeting with a real client, and we prepared beforehand for all our meetings. So that means going over who's going to talk when in our Zoom meetings, what questions do we need to prepare beforehand, how can we prep in what questions the client is going to ask back to us, can we get prepared with those or anticipate what he's going to ask, what questions do we need to ask the client to really get a full grasp on exactly the type of app that he wants. And a lot of times these clients aren't tech savvy, so they don't know what questions to ask. So that's where we come in, and we really dive into the details and get exactly the information we need to create this amazing app for our clients. So me and my two other teammates, we really collaborated a lot in preparing to meet with our client, to have the best experience possible. Okay, once we knew exactly what our client wanted, we did a lot of research on what apps already exist that are similar to this. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? Are there any opportunities from these existing apps that we can incorporate into our app? So we did take the time to do some research about what's already out there. All right, once we had a grasp on that, we started the beginning design stages. And I will say this was very much led by the UX UI designer. But it was really great experience for me and the other software developer to work with a designer in this capacity, so that we can see what is their process like, what do they need from us, what do we need for them. It was really insightful, giving the designer feedback on, I don't know if that will work exactly. Like, for example, here, the designer built out all these emojis for different chores, but we had the feedback of saying, well, there could be an unlimited amount of chores. Are we going to have an emoji for each one? So that didn't work exactly. But so yeah, it was a really collaborative process. We all filled out this empathy map together. This is kind of going into the mind of the user of our app. Why are they downloading their app? Are they frustrated with how chores are being done at home? Are they disorganized? Do they want more free time? What pain are they feeling? And then what are they going to gain from using our app? And then getting these user insights will make the design and the features all that much better. Okay, then came the initial wireframe. And this was created through Figma. So this was great experience for me because now I have very real experience going into a UX UI designer's design within Figma and clicking on all the aspects and seeing exactly what data is there that I can use to actually build out these pages. So all these wireframe conception pages were built by the UX UI designer here. I have a zoomed out version here because there's just so many different pages. And then I have a zoomed in version so you can see kind of what it looks like up close. And then what I do, if you're familiar with Figma, I go in here and I click on each icon. Like I click on due today. Is it bold? Is it semi-bold? What size font in it is it? What is the color? Because oftentimes it's not just a plain white, it's a specific hue of white. How big is this container? How big are these little containers? How much is this box rounded? So, and then all these icons. I can download these icons directly as SVGs through Figma. So I downloaded all of these. So I got a lot of great experience here and just a lot of practice paying very, very close attention to detail. When you see the final version of the app, it looks basically identical to this, I will say. So that means a lot of attention to detail was needed in each and every one of these letters and little boxes to replicate it completely in the actual front end page that I write. So that was a really cool experience. All right, and then I quickly wanted to talk about what methodology we used when meeting with our client and also meeting with each other as a team. We used Agile methodology and Scrum methodology. So, Agile, I included these little diagrams here. Actually, I'm gonna make myself disappear for a second so we can see this better. There we go. So, in this Agile diagram here, it's all about planning and checking in with the client very often, which is exactly what we did. We had a weekly check-in via just text on Discord every single week of what our updates were, and we provided screenshots of whatever we could visibly show the client. And then he would give our feedback every single week. So it was very much so developing a little bit, getting feedback, making changes, developing a little bit, getting feedback, making changes, so that we don't just develop a ton at once and then there's all these changes that are needed and it's not aligned with the client's vision. So that was really great experience. We also used Scrum ideology when working with each other. Scrum is a term derived from rugby, I think, actually, which involves like really great teamwork and making sure the game is going smoothly, and that's exactly what we did with our project. So this means having really great leadership skills, having really great communication skills with each other, having really great problem solving skills if something comes up, and just keeping the project moving smoothly, and staying organized. And even here it mentions agile development within the Scrum diagram. So yeah, we did a lot of that. I'm going to make myself come back now. Let's see. There I am. So let's see. And then we also had Zoom meetings every few weeks, and these included live demos of the app on exactly where we were in the process. So we had weekly check-ins with the client every few weeks, an actual Zoom meeting. And then basically every day, the internal team was talking to each other on Discord. So we were very much communicating with each other all the time. Okay, I'm going to take a quick sip of water. All right, now this is a really fun slide. These are all the different technologies we used in our project. So I wanted to highlight our core stack was React Native, which is really great because it works on both Android and iOS. So I was testing both platforms side by side the entire time I was creating the front end of this application. The back end is Node.js and Express. Our database is MongoDB. And we use Expo Go as our platform to test our app on. And then EAS Build, which is also an Expo platform, to create the standalone build of the app, which then we would install on Android and iOS. Okay, other technologies used. I did mention I was always testing on iOS and Android throughout the entire process of creating the application. So to test, to create a mobile emulator of Android, you use Android Studio here. To create a mobile emulator of iOS, you use Xcode right here. So those were used to create my emulators. I guess I'll just go through this list. Render is the deployed server we used. It's the server we used to deploy our application. That's the server, and we just use this because it was free. There wasn't any other great reason other than that, but that is a great reason that it's free. The IDE we used is VS Code, which stands for Integrated Development Environment. This is where we actually typed out all our code in VS Code. We used GitHub to collaborate with each other, with myself and the backend engineer. We uploaded all of our code to GitHub every time after we finished a coding session. So we have a lot of different branches in there. We have the development branch, the preview branch, we have different feature branches, we have the photo feature branch. I can't think of any more off the top of my head, but we really use that a lot. You basically have to when you're working with other developers side by side. So we got a lot of teamwork experience and just coding side by side with other coders. We got a lot of experience through that using GitHub. What else? Okay, cron job is what we use. We have a repeating chore feature in our application where you can set a chore to repeat either daily, weekly, or monthly, or multiple times a week. In order to do that, we set up a cron job, which is basically where you ping the server every day, or you can set an amount of time. I think we set it to once a day. We're pinging the server to see if any repeating chores need to be created. And if they do, they get created and added to that family's chore list. So that's why we use that. R2 Cloudflare R2 storage is what we use to store photos. We specifically didn't use MongoDB to store photos, just because photos are really big files. They're just large in memory, and we wanted them separate, so we used Cloudflare. And this was a really great resource for us because we can set the photos to delete after a month. Same with MongoDB, we set all our chore data to delete after a month, so our database isn't getting too full because you don't really need chores if they're completed after a month. um, Email.js was used for mainly login purposes. When you first log in, you are sent a code to your email to verify your email. That's using email.js is what's used to send out that email to your email. Also, if you ever forget your password, email.js will send you a temporary password to put in so you can at least log in and then change your password. We use email.js for that. And then it looks like my face is blocking one last icon here. There we go. Lastly, and this is actually a really huge one here that I'm saving for last in this corner, we use Native Wind. So this was the main design software we used to design the entire front end of the app, sorry. So since I was the front end engineer, I was using Native Wind in every single one of the pages we made. So if you're not familiar with Native Wind, you may be familiar with Tailwind CSS, which is the regular React version. But for React Native, there's Native Wind, which is very similar to Tailwind. There are some slight differences, but very similar. So that's what we use to design the entire front end of the app. Okay, let's see if I can get myself back up here. There we go. Thanks for your patience with that. Okay, this is also an exciting slide. I just wanted to show what the files looked like in our project folder. Starting with the front end, we had 30 unique page files. So this means like a single screen you see on the app, like the login is a page, registering for the first time is a page, the dashboard is a page, the settings is a page. Every screen you see in the app is a page. So there are 30 unique pages in our app, and that's including both the parent interface and the kid interface, because like I mentioned, there's actually two different interfaces in this application. Okay, and then besides that, there are 5 service files. We have the chore service file, notification service file, ping service file. This is just to get the server waking up, because like I mentioned, we're using a free server for this project. So pinging is just waking up the server so we can use it. The R2 service folder, this is for photos, R2 Cloudflare, like I mentioned before. And the user service. Okay, we have one context file, the user context. So we have a lot of functions in here that can be used across all pages. For example, logging in, checking username, logging out. We have a lot of like async storage functions in here, like checking is the app in light mode or dark mode. That is in user context when you first open the app. Things like that, functions that can be used broadly. Okay, we have 24 utility components. This means buttons, drop downs, lists, little components like that can be used multiple times over different pages, or it makes sense to make them a component within a page to be used more than once, or maybe just once and it's a big component that would just be more organized if it was in its own file. We have 2 text components. We use custom text font in this app, a regular font and bold font. So I created a component for each. So anytime we have text, you just input the component rather than a basic text tag, and it will have our custom settings in that. We have 53 icon and image SVG components. Anytime we had an SVG, like in a slide earlier, you saw the little icons and stuff. We created that as an SVG, and then we put the SVG in a component, and then we would put the component into the page. And one main reason we did this is because we do have a light mode and dark mode in our application. So there would be two different icons. There's like a white icon or a black icon, depending on which mode you're in. And we'll put both of those SVGs within a component that will see what display it is, if it's light mode or dark mode, and then it will pop out whichever one is needed. So that's why they're mostly wrapped in a component format. And all files are organized in an MVC format. This means a model, view, and controller format. Okay, backend details. Again, I just copy and pasted our files of our server so you can see kind of what was entailed here. We have one configuration file. This is to configure our Mongoose account, MongoDB account to our application. We have three controller files, our chore controller, our user controller, and our R2 controller, which again is for our photos. We have middleware, authentication middleware. This just has one protect function in it to make sure that the user is logged in before going to any routes where the user needs to be logged in. And it's basically checking that there's a token in async storage, and if there is, the route will go through. Some routes are protected, such as going into your dashboard, you need to be logged in to do that. So that's a protected route. So that's why we would use protect with this authentication middleware. Okay, we had four models. We had chore model, chore template model, the family model, and the user model. So user model is pretty straightforward for the user. Same with chore, that's for the chore creation. Chore template is for repeating chores, like I mentioned earlier. If someone had a repeating chore, it would create a chore template saying, hey, this person wants to wash the dishes every day at 7 p.m. That becomes a template, and then when the server is pinged with a cron job every morning, it sees that chore template and then makes an actual chore based on that chore template. So that's what that is for. And then family is just a very small model. It is just connecting family members together. This app is for kids and parents. So there's one account owner, the parent. The parent can have multiple kids. Kids can be connected to multiple parents. So that's what that family model is for. We have four routes. We have the chore route, notifications route, R2 route, and user route. And in each of these routes, there are even more routes relating to that user. So in the user route, there's user login, user log out, check username, change password, set password, all those fun things. We had one utility file, generate token. This actually generates the token needed to log in. Yeah, and then it saves it in async storage on your phone. So that's pretty cool. Again, these files are also organized in an MVC format. Okay, once the application was completed, we moved on to the testing phase. So on the right here, we have examples of how we tested the app on iOS and Android in the standalone build phase. So on iOS, we use TestFlight, and here's a screenshot of TestFlight. This is what it would look like on your phone, and then you can open it. You can actually leave feedback. Testers can leave feedback, and we can post on here on what to test. So that's pretty cool. Android is a little more straightforward. This is actually a screenshot directly from Expo EAS. Once the standalone build is completed, you can just send the direct link to any Android user, and they'll be able to test it that way. So that's cool. And then we also created a Google document to get users' feedback in a more organized way. So we sent this to actual families, and this is just a screenshot like of the beginning, but it was a big like long scrollable Google document, and they could give us our feedback on what's working and what's not working. Okay, and then lastly, I did just include some screenshots of what the app looks like in case you don't have time to see the full demo with all the features in action. In my other video, I also highlighted here the full app demo is on YouTube. On my other video, this is just a technical video. But I thought I would include some screenshots of the entire front end that I built. And yeah, I'm really proud of this. And it was so fun to make as kind of just a hobby project, but it's also so usable. We do want to get this up on the App Store and have it fully functional, which is super exciting. As of now, we don't yet, but we're in the very last steps of doing so. I was just so excited I had to make the presentation now because it is completed. We just need to get it uploaded to the App Store. But yeah, here are some photos of what the actual app looks like, and you'll see it looks very similar to the wireframe. So I used a lot of attention to detail to make it exactly come to life, exactly how we pictured it, how the client pictured it, and based on user feedback as well. And this, like I said, this was all done using native wind. Yeah, and I have navigation functions and all of these working well. Different transitions to each pages. We have a light mode, a dark mode. I styled both completely within the app. You can see there are photos. This is an example of how photos would be incorporated into the app here. This is the parent interface in dark mode. Our next slide is the kid interface in light mode, just so you can see both modes. And some of these pages are going to be the same. The kid has the same dashboard as the parent. But there are some new pages as well. There's 4 tabs here. Kids approved today, home, and here there are 3 tabs. Home, this week, and completed. Again, we are incorporating some photos in here. We also have dynamic styling throughout all these pages. For example, in the completed page, the page checks for a photo in the chore. If the photo doesn't exist, it'll just do a solid background because photos can be optional. For example, in the view chore page, it will spit out all the information that is with that chore. If it repeats weekly, it'll highlight the days it's repeating. If it doesn't repeat at all, this column won't even be here. So there's a lot of dynamic styling involved in this. That was super fun. Let's see, what else can I talk about? Our create chore page is the same as our edit chore page. So the page checks if a chore ID was passed through. If it does, it puts all that info in, and then you can change the info as needed. If no chore ID was passed through, it just displays a blank form that you can complete to create a new chore. If you are editing a chore, if it's a repeating chore, it checks for that, and you can either edit this chore or you can edit repeating chores, and then it will make those edits accordingly. Depending on what repeat day you choose, this column here will change. If it's weekly, these days of the week will pop up. If it doesn't repeat, this will vanish. So the entire application is very dynamic. All our icons are SVGs, so they work in various size displays. All of our formatting is also dynamic to work with different displays. So all these sizes are mainly percentages. For example, like this feed pet container right here can have a width of like 10% and a width of like 90% and a height of 10% instead of giving it hard numbers, so that it will look good across all different various sizes of phones. And I did test on a lot of different phone sizes on iOS and Android. And we have all the functions working well and smoothly on both iOS and Android. For example, if you do the time due, if you click on this, the clock that comes up is going to look different on an Android than it would on an iPhone. We've made sure all of that is working smoothly. Any input you add, we made sure that's working smoothly. So when you add notes here, the entire page is going to scroll up right here, and your keyboard is going to come right on the bottom here. And then you can type in, and the keyboard is not going to be in front of the notes, if that makes sense. So this entire page scrolls up, and the keyboard comes below, so you can easily see what you're typing. So we have thought about all those little user experiences, dynamic styling, dynamic pages, using components as much as we can to limit repeating code. I guess I could talk about this forever. It was a really fun project I did, just trying to see what else I can add to what I added in the front end here. Recent activity, we used day.js to get these dynamic minutes up here, so the minutes will keep getting longer and longer the more that time goes by. You can view chores by date. You can hide chores on the dashboard. Yeah, we have a full settings page. You can change the theme. The theme is set to async storage, like I said, so it will remember next time you log into the app. Lots of different things you can edit. You can toggle notifications on or off. Yeah, it was overall a really fun application to make. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. I have one last thank you slide. Um, yeah, I don't want this presentation to end because it was just such a fun project, and I'm so excited to share it with all of you. Maybe by the time this video is up, you can download it on your phone from the App Store. Yeah, so I think that's all I have to add. Check the full demo video on my YouTube channel to see all the features in action, and I hope you enjoyed this video. See if I can all right, I'm back to my full screen here. Again, thanks again for joining, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!